was African. I remember one time in class we were talking about race and the issues surrounding race, and someone, obviously Caucasian, used the N-word, and he was trying to argue that there's nothing wrong with using the N-word. Even though he used it once, it still made me feel uncomfortable, and no one did anything about it. The professor never budged, never said anything about the situation. I felt very uncomfortable, but the fact that no one said anything and the fact that it didn't seem like a concern to the professor made me even more uncomfortable, because he's the highest level of authority in our class, and if he's not taking it seriously, what's to say someone above him is going to take it seriously?
At my first co-op, I worked at a hospital, and it was me and another student. And I had to go from floor to floor. And the problem was, like, it was me and my other coworker. She just, we started off very professional, very formal in terms of dress code. And then, she sort of like brought it down. She just started coming to like jeans and shirt. And I was like, oh wow, we can do this. Like this is my first co-op. I want to get a good overall rating. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna wear jeans today and wear a shirt. And every floor I went to in the hospital, I was not allowed entry to anywhere. I literally had to go back every time to get my badge. And I was asking, I was like, guys, I'm not new. Like, this is something I've been doing this whole time. That was just something that, really reflected me, because why are they asking me questions? They don't ask anyone else the same questions. And at my second co-op, I just carried that mentality of the first co-op into it.
I must say there is a lot of diversity, but there is also a lot of racism that is embedded into the Canadian culture that nobody wants to talk about. For instance, like my friend and I, she's from Zimbabwe, we were walking home one day and these two drunk white guys, they said, oh look, it's black people, and then they called us niggers to our face. And we didn't know what to do, because that was the first time we ever experienced something like that. And the amount of shock that you feel is just like, you just freeze. And it's easy for people to say like, oh, if I were in that situation, I would do something else different. But being in that situation, like, it's just, you just don't know how to prepare, because you don't know how to react, because you've just never experienced something like that. And in terms of reporting it, like, we didn't know who to talk to. Like, we already like didn't feel our Don was, here for us. I just feel like Waterloo doesn't have enough to cater to our needs.
I don't feel that there are the appropriate people within, let's say, the mental health services there that can sort of relate to me or really help me get through these experiences, or there is need to have services for racialized students in order to actually help them in a way that is geared and catered towards their specific needs.
If you want to have a service provided within the campus, it should be on main campus. It shouldn't be on one of the university colleges where it gets displaced every so often because they don't have enough space to hold that. It's disheartening when you don't have a space to just quietly interact with people who are like-minded, not even necessarily Indigenous, but they understand what it means to be, or what it means to have an identity that is different than the norm. And it's a strong component to my identity as an Indigenous person, and just as a person of color.
So there aren't a lot of people, I would say in higher education, like grad studies, that look like me, who wear hijab or even identify as Muslim, which is concerning, because you always feel like an ambassador for not only your identity, but everything involved with that identity, whether you choose to identify as what they assume you identify as. And it creates so much pressure. You constantly have to be the best of the best, because you are this ambassador, you are this representation. I'm really not what you expected. I'm really goofy, and I also am multifaceted, and I do so many things, but you're always limited to this one kind of archetype that isn't fair to you, I think.
When you have like less funding, you don't really have those kinds of same opportunities, and like a lot of times it comes to the detriment of the students that are running these events. It takes a lot of time and sometimes their own money out of their own pockets to organize these events, but with more funding and more involvement from the school, a lot of this can happen more frequently, which only serves to the betterment of like the students on campus.
I think it's extremely important for faculty to, understand the implications of being a part of a minority, because I think that there's this idea that racism or discrimination or any negative connotation of being a minority is more of like a problem in the US, and with Canada we're very understanding, and it's not something that we deal with, but it really is something we deal with. And not all racism or discrimination is overt or is like hostile comments or vandalism, even though those are things that we've seen on campus. A lot of it can be structural racism, it could be denial of opportunities, it could be even issues that Black faculty face, do you know what I mean? Not just the student body. And so I think that there's like an exhaustion that students like myself face, because you're not only talking about your experiences, but you have to prove that they're real. And so if faculty don't understand that, it's almost like a double negative. So I think if that training is in place, then it will really help to not only, address the problems we face, but to also recognize that they're very real and that they're existing on campus.